So, it turns out Ethereum's future might be built on a foundation with, well, a pretty serious crack. A new security paper just dropped, and it's uncovered this big economic vulnerability that puts billions of dollars at risk. All right, let's get into what this actually means for you.
And this isn't some abstract figure. We're talking about the total value of assets, your money, my money, that's currently locked up and secured by Ethereum's best scaling solutions. It's a huge sign of the trust we've all put into this tech. And these roll-ups, they're basically the backbone of the crypto economy now. They handle massive amounts of transactions and hold all of those billions in user funds.
So here's the big question, the one we really need to dig into. What if the basic economic model is just wrong? Because if the incentives are out of whack, that $55 billion, it might not be nearly as safe as we all assume. And that, of course, matters to anyone with assets on these networks.
Okay, quick refresher for anyone who needs it. Think of a roll-up as the express lane on the Ethereum highway. It takes all the traffic, or transactions, and processes them on a super fast side road. That's layer 2. Then it just bundles up a summary and posts it back to the main highway, layer 1. So you get crazy speed, but you still inherit all the security of the main Ethereum blockchain.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. Every single time you do a transaction on a roll-up, you might think you're paying one fee, right? Wrong. You're actually paying for 3 totally different things. The actual processing on the roll-up, the cost to store your transaction data on Ethereum, and then the final settlement cost to verify it all on the main chain.
And this diagram really shows you how it all works. See? The heavy lifting happens on L2, but the super important stuff, the data and the proofs, they have to go back to L1. So you have costs from both layers, but you, the user, you just pay one fee that covers everything, and that right there is the key to the whole problem.
So here's the bottom line. Lumping 3 different costs into one neat little fee is super convenient, but it creates this huge economic blind spot. It's kind of like paying one flat price for an all-you-can-eat buffet. What's a savvy attacker going to do? They're not going to waste money on the expensive prime rib. No, they're going to load up on the cheapest thing, like the bread rolls, and eat the kitchen out of house and home. They can hammer the cheapest resource and bring the whole system down, all while paying one artificially low price.
And that brings us right to the first attack the researchers found. They call it the data saturation attack. The name is pretty descriptive. Think of it like a death by 1,000 cuts for the network, a slow bleed that's designed to clog everything up.
So how does it work? Well, an attacker just spams the rollup with tons of transactions. But these aren't normal transactions. They're super cheap to process, but they're stuffed full of data. And all that data just swamps the rollup's limited capacity to post back to Ethereum.
Yeah, it's basically a deliberate, low-cost traffic jam. The attacker just fills the entire highway with big, slow-moving trucks. Those are the data-heavy transactions. And that forces all the regular cars, actual user transactions, to a complete standstill. The whole network just seizes up. And for you as an investor, what does that mean? It means you literally can't move or trade your assets. They're stuck.
And this is the part that should really worry you. To pull this off, it would cost an attacker less than 2 ETH. I mean, for less than the cost of a nice weekend trip, someone could grind most of these major roll-ups to a complete halt for half an hour. Just let that sink in. A multi-billion-dollar ecosystem totally crippled for pocket change.
Oh, but it gets even worse. On some of these rollups, this isn't just a 30-minute thing. An attacker could keep this going forever, for as little as 0.8 to maybe 2.7 ETH per hour. That is a shockingly low price to pay to paralyze a system that's supposed to be securing billions of dollars.
Okay, so clogging the network with data is one nasty way to exploit this. But there's another, and this one is more like a surgical strike. It's called the prover killer attack, and it's aimed squarely at a specific kind of rollup, the ZK rollups.
Right, so ZK rollups work by generating these really complex cryptographic proofs to get transactions finalized. You can think of it as a super hard math problem that the system has to solve for every single block. Well, this attack is clever. It creates transactions that look cheap and easy to submit, but the math problem they create for the prover is almost impossible to solve. It just bogs the system down with a task that takes forever, and the whole proof generation process just grinds to a halt. And the impact? It's just staggering. The researchers made one single bad block of transactions, and it increased the finality time by 94 times. 94. We are not talking about a couple of extra minutes here. We are talking about a sudden, massive spike in delay. Over 8 hours from just one malicious block. And it's not just about delays for users. This is a direct financial hit to the rollup operator themselves. For that one bad block, the operator lost over $42 just because the cost of proving it was way, way higher than the fees they brought in. An attacker could literally bankrupt the operator, one painful block at a time.
All right, let's compare these two. You've got the data saturation attack, which is like a slow, steady clog that can hit any rollup. Then you've got the prover killer, which is more like a sudden freeze with a huge impact on each block, but it's specific to ZK rollups. Two different methods, but they both work for the exact same reason. They're exploiting that single, bundled fee that doesn't reflect the true cost of resources.
So, with billions of dollars on the line, this is obviously not just some academic exercise. It's a real, ticking time bomb. The big question is, how do we fix it? Well, the good news is, the researchers have a solution that really gets to the core of the issue, and they also have a pretty stark warning for the whole L2 space.
The solution is called multi-dimensional pricing, and it's actually beautiful in its simplicity. The idea is, stop bundling the costs together. Just price everything separately. It's like going to a restaurant and paying for your drink, your appetizer, and your main course, all as separate line items. Each resource, execution, data, proving, gets its own price based on its own supply and demand.
And why does this work so well? Well, think about it. If an attacker tries that data saturation attack again, only the price for data is going to skyrocket. The attack suddenly becomes incredibly expensive for them to keep up. Meanwhile, the price for a simple computation for a regular user, it stays pretty much the same. It perfectly isolates the attack and keeps the rest of the network running smoothly.
Now look, if you remember only one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this quote. After testing all the major Ethereum rollups, the research team came to a chilling conclusion. Every single one of them was vulnerable to at least one of these attacks.
Let me be crystal clear here. This is not a bug in one or two projects. This isn't about some team writing sloppy code. This is a deep, fundamental flaw in the economic architecture of the entire Layer 2 ecosystem. It is a systemic risk that affects the very foundation that all of these projects are built on.
And that leaves all of us with a really important question. As these rollups grow up and start securing even more of our money, just auditing the code isn't going to be enough. We have to start looking much, much closer at the economic incentives. Because what this research proves is that the most dangerous vulnerability might not be a bug in the code, but a feature that's just been priced all wrong. So the next time you're looking at a Layer 2 project, don't just ask, is the code safe? You have to ask, do the economics actually add up?